Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special Insomnia Insight episode where we're going to talk about a topic called depersonalization. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
And I'll just share with the community. It was funny because we were just preparing this and we realized we kind of had completely different ideas of what we were going to talk about.
Yeah, we both interpreted this differently, but we're very confident in each of our interpretation.
Yeah, right. And I think it's going to become a really valuable and meaningful episode. So what we're going to talk about is depersonalization, which we realized there can be two kind of varieties of, which is when it happens in the moment, which is basically this kind of out of body experience where you think you're going crazy type of thing, and then more the insidious one where you feel like my personality is changed. I'm not the same person that I am. And you did such a great job talking about this insidious one, Michelle. So I'm just going to ask you to do exactly what you did 5 minutes ago. But no, in all seriousness, do share your thoughts on this.
Sure. Well, this is something that I experienced a lot during my time with insomnia. And looking back, I feel like I can understand it more clearly. But in the moment, I definitely didn't understand it very much. And at times it was really upsetting to me because I just felt less and less like myself each year that went on with my insomnia. And looking back, I can kind of see key reasons for that. And one of the reasons was that, as all of you out there know, if you're experiencing this, a lot of the times, because of how much you're struggling, you can become really emotionally depleted. You feel depressed, you feel hopeless, you feel mentally and even physically just shut down. And so all of a sudden, the range of emotions that you would normally be feeling if you were not experiencing insomnia are just really not there for you. So normally, you would feel happy, sad, angry, a combination of all different sorts of things. But for me, it was like almost getting stuck in that sad or that hopeless spot instead of having that normal range of what I would normally feel. And I think the longer I was there, the more it was confusing. Well, why I felt incapable almost of feeling anything but that hopelessness, but that depression, that feeling of shut down and feeling lost. And there's just certain parts of your personality that are going to kind of shine or come forward more when you're in different emotional places. And so that might look like if you're somebody that likes to joke around or be really silly, you might not be showing that. That part of your personality might not be showing up because you're not in a place emotionally for that to actually come through like it normally would. And the same can be said for any part of your personality. Like we are supposed to exist in the full range of emotions. And I think different parts of our personality come out during different times of that. And instead, we end up feeling more kind of in that shutdown, in that depressed place. And especially if, like me, you really turn to trying to numb a lot of those emotions because they're so difficult. And in the moment, we think, I just want to numb this difficult emotion. But you don't realize that the more that you're numbing things, the more that you're actually preventing your own ability to feel other emotions along that scale. So your emotional range is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller the more you are kind of numbing some of that really hard stuff. So that was kind of the first thing that when I look back, I can see like, oh, yes, I definitely was in a completely different emotional place throughout this entire time. And that definitely would have impacted the way that I was, showing up for myself, for my life, with other people. It changed a lot of that, definitely.
And was it then that in the topic of like depersonalization, feeling like you have a different identity, my thinking becomes you start to kind of look at yourself and like I'm only feeling this way, I'm only doing these things, like I'm not the same person I was, something like that.
Yeah, you feel like a different person. I was somebody like I've been lucky. I've not experienced things like clinical depression or anything of that nature before this, or before feeling depression during my insomnia. And so I definitely felt like a different person, because I wasn't somebody that was always feeling that way. And then all of a sudden I was. And when you're feeling a certain way, that also impacts how you're behaving on a day-to-day basis. So suddenly you are, you know, kind of displaying different behaviors that before maybe you weren't. And so that also makes you feel different. Why am I not able to do these things? Or I'm feeling blocked, or I'm showing up in this way. And this is like how I'm behaving towards my partner or my friends. And you feel on the inside like you're a different person. Like, who is this person? And you start to even get afraid, like, what if I can't get back to how I felt before and who I felt I was before? And then that almost keeps you there longer, because now you're really in fear of all the things that you're feeling and everything that's happening. And this kind of actually leads to the next part of the idea that you just also, because you're feeling this way and you're so entrenched in the struggle of everything, you really stop doing all the things that really make you you. Whether it is a job that you love working, whether it's spending time with friends, family, certain hobbies that you love, passions, you start to slowly kind of step away from things in your life. And the reason it's so insidious is because it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long process. Like, when I think about what this looked like for me, it happened over years. And I feel that it really happens as a survival response. So you think you're in a battle for your life when you're not sleeping anymore. And so it is a safety response, right? You want to keep yourself as safe as possible, and you start to slowly take things away that you think could be a threat to your own survival in those moments. So for me, it was, okay, well, maybe I don't see friends in the evenings anymore, ever. And that cuts out a lot of social time. And it happens slowly. You don't do it right away. At first, maybe you just don't do it once, and you think, you know what, last time when I saw this person after 8 or 9 p.m., like, I didn't sleep at all that night, so I can't see people at night anymore. Only at 3 p.m. on Saturday can I actually socially engage with people. And it keeps going in that direction, whether it be friends or family, hobbies. Well, I don't have the energy to go on a hike, or, I don't have the energy or the ability to read this book I normally would love to read. And on down the line, you just stop doing all these things that really made you feel like yourself. Maybe you leave work for a period of time because you feel like you're not functioning very well, but how much of your identity was wrapped up in that? And how much of your identity was wrapped up with your friends and your family and your passions? And maybe you're giving up a dream that you love. Like, it could be anything, but it just slowly over time, you start to pull away, and you stop doing things because you think you have to survive, to maintain whatever small amount of sleep you have left. So you think you're doing it to protect yourself. And over time, one day you may wake up, and this happened to me, and you look around and you think, well, what is left here? I don't feel like myself at all. Not only am I feeling really emotionally different, but I've stopped doing so many of the things that make me feel like me. And that's really hard, because it really does happen slowly and over time for the most part. So you don't know how you got there, and then you don't know how you get that back. And in my case, I remember thinking, well, when I feel better, when I'm sleeping better, that's when I'm going to be able to spend more time with friends, or that's when I'm going to be able to start working in the way that I want to, or that's when I'm going to be able to get back to certain hobbies that I miss. So once I'm sleeping better and feeling better, that's when that's going to happen. And as long as I double down on solving this insomnia problem, that's the right thing to do. So it actually led to more struggle and more problems, because once I realized, oh, I'm really not engaging with the world in the way that I want to, it put even more pressure on, I need to solve this. I need to solve this immediately. And that leads to, of course, going down the rabbit hole even
Yeah.
more with that, and that with that pressure on you as well, is, getting your life back, feeling like yourself again, doing things that you love, when really it's like the opposite. You need to slowly start doing those things that make you feel like you, in order to start sleeping again as part of that, right? And like, and slowly over time, as you start doing that, you can start to feel a little bit more like yourself, a little bit more like yourself, because none of that's ever gone. For me, it felt dormant, right? My emotional state was so different. My behaviors were different. I pulled away from a lot. So of course I'm not going to feel like myself. It would be strange if I did.
Right.
Um, and there's that fear of not being able to get yourself back. I certainly felt that. Like, what if I can't get back there? What if it's gone? What if I'm this person now, and that person is gone forever. And that's a scary thing to feel, but it's just not true. You can slowly and surely kind of make your way back. And it's a process, right? And it's you know s- stepping away from all of that struggle and all of that problem solving, and learning on this channel and through a lot of Daniel's content, which helped me so much to start to actually stop a lot of those safety behaviors, start to live my life again so I could start to feel like myself. And then that kind of helps you to feel a little bit better. It's like slowly and surely, step by step, you can kind of make it back to yourself and feel more like yourself again.
Yeah, you're sort of kind of reversing,
Yeah.
reversing the cycle that led you there. And you said that so well. It's so well said, Michelle. And I wanted to ask you actually, but you kind of already answered this question. But one question that came to my mind as you were speaking was, the sense of having like a different identity. It was that I was going to ask you, did that happen kind of insidiously too, or was it kind of more one day you looked back and you looked kind of at yourself and said, wow, what happened? And it was more of the latter, right?
I think it did happen insidiously, but I didn't really notice until it got to a certain point and I felt a certain way, until I
Yeah.
had stepped back from enough things in my life.
Yeah.
Because at first, when you're stepping back, you really think you have to. It's like, I've got to do this to survive this. Like, you're desperate, you're grasping. So you're not even thinking of like think how you feel, if you feel yourself
Right.
not.
Exactly.
So I think
Of
it's
course.
like you're doing these things to survive in
Yeah.
a place of desperation, and it's only later, once you've stepped back from enough, whatever
Yeah.
that's for you, um, that you kind of look around and realize, like, just how different everything feels, and how much you're just really engaging so differently with the world than you were before, and how that causes that identity shift. And then another thing we talked about is, and it's also really insidious, is the more you do that and the more you step away, the more what fills that void of identity is the insomnia, right? Which is the last thing you want, right? You're
It's
trying
funny
to
because I
get
started to interrupt you, Michelle, but I just had to, because when you were talking, I was like, this could be an episode in of itself, which you could call like the void.
void. No, totally.
Right?
Totally. And you don't think, because you think, I'm stepping away from certain things in an attempt to improve this situation. You have the best intentions. You're desperate, you're trying to survive, you're trying to solve this problem. So you see it as like, these are part of your efforts around this. And you don't realize that you're going to create this void, this identity void in yourself. And you surely don't realize that what is about to fill it is going to be your insomnia. And then that continues, right? And then it's the cycle. Then you're trying even harder to solve it and to get away from it, and the void gets bigger, and the insomnia becomes more and more part of your identity, um, and you feel more and more trapped, kind of as it goes.
And now, yeah, absolutely, like 100%, so well said again. And I think now it's in this episode, it becomes like, hearing this becomes a little like almost scary, like, oh
Oh
my
my
gosh, what's happening? But I was thinking before, like, when you again step out of it and look at things from the outside, I think what is happening is really that you are the same person, you have the same personality. As you said,
God.
there are a lot of things that are sort of dormant, or you can think of it as you're the same person. It's just that there's a layer of fear
Mhm.
that's kind of blocking it. It's just
Yeah.
fear. It's just a layer of fear that's there. And when that fear comes away, then you'll see you are always that same person underneath that layer of fear, right?
Yes, that's a great way. You haven't actually lost anything. You feel like you're a different person. You feel like there's this loss of identity and it's maybe gone forever. But you're right, none of it is. It's all there. It's like felt like it was lying dormant, or like you just said, like there's just this layer of anxiety and fear, the struggle, the layer of the struggle is, and it can feel big and heavy. And it's blocking all of that. So it's tricking you. And I feel like insomnia really is like the ultimate trick on you,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Like it's lying to you in every single way. And that's one of the ways is it's actually telling you like, oh, you are actually a different person now. Like, and you're never going back. And none of that's true. It feels that way, but it is
Yeah.
that way. And it's when you start to release that struggle that you start to be able to see, oh, it's all still there. I can still access it. And slowly as you start doing some more of those things that do make you feel like you'll feel little parts of yourself awaken and you'll know, oh, okay, there you are. Like you're still there. It's
Exactly.
it's that layer of struggle has been preventing me from reaching you.
Yeah, you know, when you said that you see that little piece of you awakening, I literally thought about that little flower who breaks through the asphalt, you know, and just like
Totally.
it's coming through, right? Yeah.
It's exactly like that. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, let's go on to the second part of this, which is this the insidious depersonalization. That's what you were thinking we were going to talk about today, and that obviously was super important. It became a really valuable discussion here. And now we'll move to like what I thought about, which was this more like in the moment depersonalization, which a lot of people on this channel describe as like, Daniel, like I think I'm going crazy. I'm outside myself. I left my own body and I'm kind of just like, I don't know what's happening anymore. That's quite common. And, you know, what we kind of our kind of like preamble discussion here led us to this, you know, thinking that it is like, if you take any human being and you literally sleep deprive that person, you keep them awake for 3 or 4 days, guess what? That's what they do to indoctrinate people in sects, you know, like they sleep deprive for 3 days, and then you're kind of so confused. You're willing to, things that would sound like insane to you 4 days ago now seem like, oh, maybe this leader of the sect really is God, or, you know, whatever it is, right? And so you have that sleep deprivation, plus you have like all the anxiety and the fear that's embedded in that, and you're thinking about your thoughts, and your thoughts don't seem to make sense, and then you're like, why am I thinking about my thoughts? Because they don't make sense, but I'm thinking about them still. And like, and then you can have this like, this is insane, I'm outside of my own body, like. And so again, this is just to share that this is not uncommon at all, and it's not strange that it happens. And I think you may not have had exactly this, but you could relate to this in some sense too, Michelle, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I went through several phases of my insomnia where I would go 3, 4 nights in a row with absolutely no sleep, and I would feel, and I would go to work and feel like just unstable mentally. And I think the thing I kept saying to people was like, I felt like my brain was no longer my own. I felt very outside of myself. I look back and I don't know how I was functioning through those periods of time. I really don't. And it was very, very strange to not. It completely changes your own internal dialogue with yourself, your own connection mentally with yourself. Just it's a very strange experience. It's very disorienting and scary because like you said, in addition to that, if you just sleep deprive somebody, they would feel that way. But if you add on all that anxiety and the fear of not just, oh my gosh, what is happening to me right now? This is permanent. Am I going crazy? And then on top of that, there's the, oh God, like this is really bad. I've really got to fix my insomnia. This is out of control. Like nobody has insomnia like this, you know? So it's almost like layer upon layer of anxiety and fear on top of all of it, so that you're really.
Absolutely. And one thing that just so often comes, you know, I just thought about this right now. One thing that often is comes up in this context is like, have I damaged my brain by taking this medication, by coming off this medication, or simply by have have my insomnia now damaged my brain to a point where like it's like something is lost in there or something like that. That often comes up in this context. And
Yeah.
you know, I just want to say that in this episode, we're not like, we're not going towards like, okay, if this is what you experience, this is what you should do, because the answer really is education, right? Like to either of these is just like, when you just learn, you see that this is nothing strange. It happens to a lot of people. You understand what's going on. Then both of these types of depersonalization, you know, they start to fade away and they become non-issues. But I think, again, it's so important to talk about it, because just that, knowing that many people have experienced this, that alone is so helpful, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just to know that it's part of the insomnia experience for so many people. It's not permanent. Your brain is not damaged. I used to worry about that as well all the time. And that you can kind of move out of both of those experiences and be okay.
100%. So I'll just say, yep, thanks so much for guesting here again, Michelle, and sharing. And anyone who has thoughts, comments, just leave comments in the comment section, and me or Michelle or both of us maybe will comment on those. So thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks,
Thanks for
Michelle.
having me.
Okay.